The wedding was silent. No vows, no guests, just a pen, a contract, and the soft hum of fluorescent lights in the janitor's closet. Scarlett Rhodes never imagined her father's empire would come down to this, marrying a stranger in a dusty backroom beneath her own company. Her signature dried beside his on the emergency marriage document, her eyes never quite meeting his. He stood still, as stone. No questions, no expression. Just a quiet nod. It was done. Rhodes Defense Systems was collapsing. Her father, General Thomas Rhodes, had built the company on grit, brilliance, and military precision. When he died suddenly, Scarlett stepped in confident, capable, but surrounded by wolves. Now, only days away from a corporate takeover led by corrupt shareholders and whispered military interests, she'd discovered a bizarre clause in the original company charter. Only a married CEO may retain voting control in times of contested leadership. A ridiculous legacy policy, but binding. She needed someone fast. Someone without ambition, loyalty, or even a real presence in the company. Not an executive, not even a manager. So she chose Caleb Grant. The janitor. He emptied bins on the 3rd floor every night without speaking. Always vanished before the morning meetings. No social media. No HR complaints. Just silence. Scarlett hadn't known what she expected when she asked him. Maybe confusion, maybe resistance. Instead, he said, "Asterisk. If it keeps you in charge, I'll sign asterisk." Nothing more. Now, standing outside that janitor's closet, with the ink still fresh on their fake marriage license, Scarlett felt the first crack in her carefully constructed control. Harper, her legal counsel and only real friend, leaned against the hallway wall, arms crossed. "Scarlett, this is insane. You don't even know his last name." "I do now," she said dryly. "Grant." Harper's eyes narrowed. "There's something off about him. He didn't flinch, not once. Who reacts like that to marrying their billionaire boss?" Scarlett didn't answer. Because the truth wash didn't care who he was. Not yet. He was a legal safeguard. Nothing more. But that night, as she returned to her penthouse and opened the door to a dead silent apartment where Caleb was now technically her husband, she found him already there, sitting in the dark, back straight. Still in his janitor's uniform. No lights on, no bags packed, just waiting. "Do you always sit in the dark?" she asked, flipping the switch. "I don't like being seen unless I have to be," he said. Scarlett hesitated. "Look, I don't care what you do, Caleb. Just keep your head down and don't talk to anyone. This isn't real." He nodded. But something in his eyes shifted. A flicker there and gone. Meanwhile, asterisk. In the cold corridors of Capitol Hill, Senator Victor Langston sipped bourbon in his private office, his eyes scanning a confidential file just delivered from a Pentagon contact. It was marked, "Caleb Grant. Status, deceased. Shadow Unit 6. Classified. Asterisk. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. So, the ghost is alive after all. Scarlett never believed in ghosts. Not the kind that haunted old houses, anyway. But as she watched Caleb disappear into the guest room, no footsteps, no hesitation, she realized there was something not quite human about the way he moved. The fake marriage had bought her a few weeks of control over Rhodes Defense Systems. Long enough, she hoped, to outmaneuver Senator Victor Langston and the coalition trying to force her out. But the real problem wasn't politics. It was the war quietly brewing inside her company. Unauthorized access to weapons schematics, high-level server breaches, sudden resignations from key engineers. Something wasn't right, and the deeper she looked, the more it felt like sabotage. Still, none of that explained him, Caleb Grant. By day, he was invisible. He never spoke to staff, avoided security cameras, and carried out his janitorial duties like clockwork. But by night, When he thought no one was watching, Scarlett began to notice the details. He never locked the bedroom door. He never slept more than 3 hours. And every object he touched, cupboards, chairs, doorknobs, was left exactly as he found it, like a soldier, or a man trained to vanish. One evening, Scarlett returned home to find Caleb in the kitchen. He wasn't cooking, just standing, perfectly still, staring at the TV which he had muted. On screen was a breaking news report. A convoy of U.S. intelligence vehicles had been hit overseas. One confirmed fatality: Colonel Mason Vance. ****. Caleb's hands were clenched so tightly on the countertop that the veins in his arms bulged. Scarlett froze, watching. "You knew him," she said softly. Caleb didn't move. "He was my commanding officer." "From when?" she asked, stepping closer. "Before you worked here?" He turned slowly. "Before I stopped existing." Scarlett's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Caleb just walked past her, without another word. But that night, she did something she hadn't allowed herself in years. She broke protocol. She ran a private background scan, using her father's clearance, level digging into Caleb's life. And what she found chilled her to the bone. There were 3 versions of his military record, each conflicting, each redacted. One said, "Killed in action." One listed him as Miano remains. And the third? The third wasn't supposed to exist. It referenced something called **** Shadow Unit 6. ****. No file, no history, just a codename and a single note. All assets terminated. Project dissolved following classified incident. ****. Scarlett's hands trembled as she closed the file. Who was this man she'd married? Meanwhile, across town, in a soundproof sub-basement beneath Langston's private estate, an encrypted call buzzed to life. A man with a torn jacket and blood on his sleeves appeared on the other end. "Sir," he rasped. "We found him." Langston leaned forward. "Where?" "Rhodes Defense Systems. He's alive, living under a false ID, working as janitorial staff." Langston's eyes narrowed. "Get me access to the building. We'll handle him like we should have years ago." Back at the penthouse, Scarlett sat alone in her study, staring at Caleb's file. She had married a ghost. But something inside her whispered that he didn't come back for her company. He came back for something else. Or someone. Scarlett sat in her office the next morning, watching the city skyline beyond the bulletproof glass. But her mind wasn't on the quarterly reports or the looming board vote. It was on Caleb Grant, her husband on paper, and now a living anomaly unraveling everything she thought she knew about safety. The fake marriage had started as a loophole. Now, it felt like a ticking bomb in her home. She picked up her phone and dialed Harper. "I need a name run. Shadow Unit 6. Keep it off the grid. Burn the search after." There was a pause. "Scarlett, that's Black Tear. You sure?" "I'm sure. I think I married someone who's supposed to be dead." Scarlett didn't tell Harper everything. Not yet. But she couldn't ignore the way Caleb reacted to the name Mason Vancer, the silent rituals he moved through like muscle memory. She'd seen that intensity before in the eyes of soldiers who came back from wars they weren't allowed to talk about. She knew because her father had been one of them. That afternoon, while most employees filed into a mandatory briefing, Caleb quietly walked the perimeter of the RBD wing. On the surface, he looked like he was just pushing a mop bucket. But his eyes weren't cleaning. They were searching. Scarlett's company had been bleeding sensitive data. Projects tied to national defense contracts were somehow being intercepted before they even left the lab. Someone on the inside was leaking specs. And now, someone had tried to physically access the high-clearance server room without tripping any alarms. Only someone with military precision and deep-level clearance could bypass that tech. Only someone like Caleb. When she confronted him that night, the words came out colder than she meant. Are you spying on my company? Caleb didn't flinch. He simply set down the mug in his hand and met her gaze. Number, I'm protecting it. Scarlett folded her arms. From what? He didn't speak at first. Then he said something that stopped her breath. From the men who killed my team. The ones trying to take this place from you. Langston's name is on every file they tried to hide. Your father knew. That's why he put that clause in the charter to protect this company, if Langston ever came knocking. Her chest tightened. How do you know all this? Caleb looked at her, a haunted stillness in his voice. Because I was there the day it all went wrong. I lived. They didn't. Before Scarlett could speak again, her secure tablet buzzed an alert from internal security. Unauthorized personnel breach detected. Sublevel 4. Asterisk, asterisk. Her eyes widened. That's the prototype vault. She turned to Caleb, but he was already gone. Down in the cold silence of sublevel 4, 3 armed intruders in tactical gear moved through the dark hallway with military precision. They weren't thieves, they were trained operators. But before they could breach the door, a shadow peeled out of the darkness behind them. Silent, swift, deadly. Caleb moved like a ghost. In seconds, 2 men were down, incapacitated with brutal efficiency. The third reached for his comm, but Caleb slammed him into the wall. Who sent you? The man coughed blood. Langston. Wants the prototype. Said the janitor wouldn't be a problem. Caleb stepped back, eyes cold. He was wrong. Back upstairs, Scarlett was racing toward the vault when she found Caleb already there, standing over the intruder, unconscious but alive. She stared at him. You're not just a soldier, are you? Caleb's voice was steady but distant. I used to lead missions no one's allowed to talk about. Until one of them ended with my team and body, bag sand Langston's name all over the cover-up. Scarlett's heart pounded. The truth was deeper than she feared. And Caleb wasn't hiding anymore. Scarlett had witnessed war from a distance. Boardroom briefings, budget allocations, strategy meetings. She'd grown up on the clean, clinical side of conflict. But seeing Caleb Grant disarm 3 trained men without breaking a sweat made her realize some wars never ended. They just followed their soldiers home. She sat across from him in her private office that night. The lights dimmed. On the table between them, photos of the men who'd broken into her company, now detained in off-the-books security holding. Why didn't you tell me who you were? She asked quietly. Caleb didn't answer right away. He leaned back, fingers interlocked, gaze fixed on nothing. Because when people find out, they either want to use you or run. Scarlett stared at him. And what if someone just wants the truth? His eyes finally met hers. Then they better be ready to carry the weight of it. 2 hours later, Harper arrived in a panic, slamming a manila folder on the desk. Her voice trembled. You married a ghost, Scarlett. There's no birth record, no family history past age 20. And Shadow Unit 6? It wasn't just off. The booksit was wiped. Asterisk. They operated in joint ops across foreign soil. Counterintelligence, rogue extractions, political disappearances. These men weren't soldiers. They were weapons. Harper looked to Caleb. You're not just dangerous. You're a target. Scarlett rose. He just saved our entire company. Harper stared at her. And painted a target the size of Texas on your back in the process. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit hotel suite across D.C., Senator Victor Langston stared at security footage-grainy images of Caleb, neutralizing his men with deadly precision. He crushed his whiskey glass in his hand. How is he still alive? He growled. A voice answered from the shadows. You missed one. And he remembers everything. Langston turned to his advisor. Then we bury him, this time for good. Back at Rhodes Defense Systems, Caleb walked the edge of the rooftop that night. The wind cut across his face, but he didn't flinch. Below, the city moved unaware, unbothered. He liked it that way. Scarlett found him there, arms crossed, still still wearing her business heels. "You always vanish when things get quiet." He didn't turn. "Quiet means the danger's thinking." She stepped closer. "What really happened to your team?" For a long time, he said nothing. Then, "Langston used us to cover up a failed arms deal overseas. We walked into a trap. I made it out. They didn't. When I tried to expose it, the report disappeared. So did I." He looked at her, finally. "I buried them with no names. And then I buried myself." Scarlett's throat tightened. "But now you're here." "Why?" Caleb's voice softened. "Because someone inside your company is feeding Langston classified tech. And because I know what it's like to watch everything your father built get burned from the inside." Scarlett's breath caught. For the first time, she didn't see a janitor or a weapon. She saw a man who'd already lost everything and wasn't about to lose something again. At that exact moment, in a dark surveillance van parked across from the Rhodes Tower, a comm unit crackled to life, confirming positive visual. Caleb Grant is inside, standing next to Scarlett Rhodes. The agent on the other end smiled grimly. "Execute the contingency plan." Inside her office, Scarlett's secure server suddenly flickered. An override command ran across the screen. ****. Prototype access locked out. Emergency extraction triggered. ****. She stared at it, heart pounding. "Caleb?" He burst through the door in seconds. "They're here," she said breathlessly. "And they're not just after data this time." He looked at her dead serious. "They're after you. ***. It started with a power cut. Every floor of Rhodes' defense systems went black emergency, lights flickering on just long enough to reveal chaos. Security doors slammed shut. Elevators froze mid-floor. Surveillance systems dropped offline. And on the executive level, Scarlett Rhodes stood frozen beside Caleb as her company, her father's legacy, was plunged into calculated darkness. "They've breached internal protocols," she whispered, watching her screen glitch in real time. "This isn't just a data wipe, they're trying to erase us." Caleb was already moving. He tapped an earpiece, voice low. "Harper, pull all system backups and get off site. Now." Scarlett turned to him. "What are you doing?" He opened a steel cabinet, hidden behind her office bookshelf, something she hadn't even known existed. Inside, tactical gear, a sidearm, encrypted drives. "Langston doesn't just want your company. He wants to erase every trace of what your father buried, including you." Scarlett stared. "How long have you known this?" Caleb paused. "Since the day I took this job." 10 floors below, 3 operatives in military-grade exosuits moved like shadows through the server wing, armed, silent. They weren't there for files. They were there to silence loose ends. Their orders were clear. ****. Eliminate Scarlett Rhodes. Extract Caleb Grant dead or alive. ****. But Caleb knew this building better than anyone. He'd studied every corridor, every blind spot. And he'd turned his janitorial routine into a reconnaissance plan months ago. Leading Scarlett through a maintenance corridor behind the executive suites, he moved fast but deliberate, his voice calm, hers shaking. "You've been living here like a ghost," she said, nearly out of breath. "Was any of this real?" Caleb stopped, turned to her. "The marriage was fake, but the protection that's real. I didn't want to feel responsible for anyone again, until you." Scarlett's eyes searched his. Something flickered their grief, maybe, or the last pieces of a man learning how to care again. Then came the explosion. A tremor shook the hallway. Dust rained from the ceiling. Caleb pulled her down just as a fire door blew off its hinges. "They're breaching the lab," he said, grabbing her hand. "Where are we going?" to the one place Langston doesn't know exists. Caleb led her to Sublevel Zan, abandoned Cold War bunker, hidden beneath the foundation of the building, sealed long before Rhodes' defense was privatized. Even Scarlett's access badge failed to recognize it. "How do you know this place?" she asked. As the door groaned open, Caleb's face was stone. "Your father used to bring me here." Scarlett froze. "You knew my father?" He turned slowly. "He didn't just build this company. He built Shadow Unit 6. He recruited me, protected me, and when Langston tried to use us, he died trying to stop it." Her breath caught. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because you weren't ready, and because I wasn't ready to remember." As they entered the darkened control room, Caleb powered up an old tactical interface, the only system still off Langston's radar. But before he could scan the building for intruders, a static-filled voice cut through the emergency channel. "Caleb." "It's Noah." Caleb froze. Scarlett could hear his breath hitch. "Repeat," the voice said. "This is Noah Vance. I'm alive. Langston's men are hunting me." Scarlett's heart dropped. "That's the man you said died." Caleb's jaw clenched. "He's the only other person who knows what really happened to our unit." Then another voice crackled through intercepted mid-broadcast. It wasn't Noah. It was Langston. "Hello, Scarlett. Hello, Caleb. You've run long enough, but this ends tonight." Caleb turned slowly toward her, eyes hardening. "They're closing in. We've got one shot to end this." Scarlett stared at the console, Noah's voice still echoing through the speakers. "I'm alive." Two words that changed everything. Behind her, Caleb stood frozen, his breath shallow, his eyes far away. That name, Noah Vance, wasn't just a ghost. It was a wound, a brother left behind, a truth long buried. "Where is he?" Caleb asked. Scarlett worked the terminal, bypassing outdated security. Coordinates pinged. A warehouse compound outside Baltimore. Decommissioned, off-grid. The perfect place to disappear or to die. Then Langston's voice cut through again, calm and venomous. Asterisk, asterisk. You're not walking out of this. Neither of you. Asterisk, asterisk. And the transmission ended. Silence fell. Caleb turned to Scarlett. "You don't have to come." She straightened. "I married a ghost to save my company. But I found something else. You. I'm not walking away now." They moved fast. Within the hour, they were on the road, in an unmarked SUV, the Washington skyline shrinking behind them. The world had gone quiet, too quiet. Caleb kept scanning the horizon, watching rearview mirrors, listening for drones he could almost feel in his blood. Scarlett watched him from the passenger seat, wondering how much this man had endured in silence. He hadn't just been hiding. He'd been surviving. "What happens if we find Noah?" she asked. Caleb's voice was low. "Then I finally finish what was started." The warehouse loomed ahead, rusted metal, broken windows, the shell of a past war. They entered through a side door, flashlights slicing through the dark. "Noah?" Caleb called. A shape moved. And then he was there, leaner, hunted, but unmistakably alive. Noah Vance stepped into the light, hands raised, body trembling. "Caleb," he whispered. "They told me you were dead." Caleb dropped his guard for the first time in years. "So were you." They moved toward each other, eyes full of history, pain, and brotherhood. But the reunion lasted seconds. A red laser dot appeared on Noah's chest. "Down!" Caleb roared, diving just as a shot shattered the air. Gunfire erupted from the catwalk above Langston's private kill team, masked and merciless. Scarlett ducked, shielding Noah behind stacked crates. Caleb moved like fire, returning shots, drawing attention, flanking hard. "I told you, Caleb." Langston's voice echoed from the rafters. You don't get to rewrite history." "No," Caleb shouted back. "But I get to finish it." The firefight ended with silence. And then, Langston, bruised and bleeding, stumbled down the stairs, cornered. Caleb held him at gunpoint, eyes burning. "Do it," Langston sneered. "Be the weapon I made you." But Caleb lowered the gun. "You don't get to decide what I become." Scarlett stepped forward and pressed the final blow, an encrypted drive with years of buried evidence into Langston's chest. "We already sent everything to federal counsel. You're done." Langston's smirk faded. Sirens howled in the distance. Justice was coming. 2 weeks later, Rhodes' defense system stood again, not just protected, but reborn. The board had reinstated Scarlett with full authority. Langston's empire was crumbling. Arrests rippled through Washington. And Shadow Unit 6 was finally acknowledged, names restored, medals awarded posthumously. Caleb stood on the rooftop one last time. The city stretched before him. The war, at last, was over. Scarlett joined him, her hand brushing his. "So," she asked softly, "was the marriage ever just a contract?" He turned to her. "Not anymore." And for the first time in a long, long time, Caleb Grant smiled. Not because the ghosts were gone, but because he'd finally found something worth staying for.